Okay, so intensity coding. So there's a number of things that I've learned from teaching FACS so much about how to understand intensity coding better. And intensity coding is challenging, and I'm just going to have to go back to the manual for a minute because I'm a teacher. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. One of the reasons why intensity coding is so difficult is that it's not, let's see if we can get in here. It's intensity code. Okay, let's look at this. This is a graphic depiction of the 5-point intensity scale in FACS that goes from A to E. And just to make clear, one of the things that people forget when they're coding is that these are not, first of all, it's not an interval scale, meaning the distance between A and B is different from the distance between B and C. This is what we would call an ordinal scale. It just increases in order. And the other thing to remember is that each of these intensity points, again, it's a range. There's a range of A, a range of B. Look at the big range for C and D. And even E, which is considered to be the maximum, has a range. So these are not point judgments. You're saying, oh, it's in the D range, it's in the C range. And this is why when people compare, I'll hear it from students. Wait, why did we code this one a C? Here's this woman's face in chapter 5, and that was a C. I'm like, well, one of them was lower C than the other one. So there's that. We are not going to change the 5-point scale, but we are going to offer more refinement. And I'm going to explain it better. I just wrote a short chapter on intensity for people to learn. But just to show you how it's set up now, one of the reasons it's challenging is you get the most intense detail at the B level, and then everything is relative to B. Why? Why is it like that? It took me a while before, of teaching with this manual to realize why this was done. This was done because in the old manual, the 3-point system, what is now B was the lowest level, and that was X, and that was called a minimum requirement. So you needed to at least have these features to score that AU at all. So there was a lot of detail about what was necessary, how to pass that threshold of making something scorable. So there's a lot of detail with B. After years of having people use FACS in the late 1970s and 1980s, Ekman and Friesen discovered people could recognize the occurrence of these actions that didn't quite meet the X criteria that they had at the time, but were still there. So that's why they created the A level, which is less. And then C, D, and E are always explained as more. So one of the things I can tell you now, so that's just a review, right? But it's one of the things I can tell you now if you're using FACS is that what I've noticed is that as you move, one of the challenges is that people in their heads want to use the intensity scale as what's known as a Likert scale, like you see on questionnaires, where you say, oh, how much, how much of the day do you feel like you don't want to do anything? Not at all or a lot, right? We take it that way. It's not that, though. There's a little of that, and that's because intensity coding is based on two things. One of them is the magnitude of the action, which is what is more Likert-like, right? So there's not at all or barely too extreme. There is that element, but there's another element, and that is how many appearance changes are present. And one of the things I discovered, this was my aha moment, is that you move up the intensity scale, not only do you get a greater magnitude of the action, but you get more features of the action. It deforms the face more. So you're bringing in more appearance changes. So I hope that helps you right now. And it also, and it just takes practice working with it. And there, you'll find if you're coding, there might be some exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, that's what's embedded in intensity coding. This is why I have a section written on this to try to explain it to people.